Here we go, we're still with Inkanyeni, and I must admit, out of the cats, leopards probably are the hardest to track, but the hardest animal to track, I would say, is a dragonfly or a butterfly. Only joking, of course. So you can see it's heating up quite quickly now. It's probably close on 85 to 90 Fahrenheit already. And then we've got Inkanyeni lying in the shade with her nice big belly. There's the remnants of an impala kill in the marula tree behind us, but it's pretty much done skis. There's nothing left there. I can't see where Vutomi is now, but I'm sure he's not far. Also probably got his own little spot of shade that he is reclining in. Now, if Karula is the queen of Djuma, Inkanyeni is certainly the queen of the East. We don't get to see her as nearly as often as I'd like, because a lot of her territory extends into the Kruger. So she does spend quite a lot of time outside of the Sabi Sands. But when she is around, she is spectacular. Even if she is dozing. Now, it's thought that Shivambalan is the father of Vutomi. Now, with when it comes to leopards, a lot of people definitely like to speculate who's the daddy. Now, unfortunately, as much as we would like to speculate, without genetic testing, it's impossible to say. Female leopards will mate with up to 4 or 5 males during the estrus cycle, and the reason they do this is so that any male that comes into contact with those cubs will think that they've possibly fathered that cub, and therefore hopefully not kill it. Now, so it is very difficult to say. It's likely that the dominant leopard, that the female dominant male that the female's territory mostly encompasses, is likely to be the father, but again, without genetics, it is literally impossible to say. Now, Stephanie is wondering why, in Singapore, is wondering why is she breathing so heavily. Well, Stephanie, it's because she's got a full belly. Now, leopards, unlike human beings, are unable to sweat. So we cool down by sweating, and then the cold or the breeze or whatnot on us causes evaporation, which cools us down. And when we're hot, our actual blood comes closer to the skin, and our veins become thicker. When it's cold, it contracts. So when we want to try get rid of that heat, and when it's really, really cold, we're trying to keep our heat in. Now, the only way for her to get rid of heat easily is by breathing. So if we look there, so the closest sort of blood vessels and veins and whatnot are going to be in her mouth and on her tongue. So what she does is those will be heavily extended, and as she breathes, they'll cool down the blood and send it through to the rest of her body. Now, as with a lot of the big cats, heat is a big problem for them, and that's why they generally tend to be nocturnal or move around when it's cooler. And not so bad in leopards, but in lions, if their core body temperature raises even by about 2 or 3 degrees, it actually puts them in critical dangers, and the fact that they might not survive. I've only ever heard of one case of that actually being seen in the South Luangwa. What happens is if their body temperature does get too hot, they become delirious, confused, and of course then they don't get out of the sun, don't cool down, so it can be quite dangerous. It doesn't really happen too often. It's a very extreme thing when that does happen. But that's why on hot days, especially on hot summer days like today, you're going to find most leopards will be well in some deep shade and breathing heavily. And the other reason she's breathing so heavily is she's got a belly full of food. So remember, when you eat, and you tend to get a bit warmer after you eat, and the digestive process does heat you up. Oh, here comes Vutomi. See him? Oh, he's laying down. There he is. So I said he's never going to be too far off. Yeah, let's try see if we can get a bit of a closer look at Mr. Vutomi. Growing up very quickly, if I remember, he's probably 13 or 14 months old now. He is getting to probably one of the nicest ages for young male leopards. They are very playful and inquisitive with life. So between a year and 2 years is sort of my favorite time to spend with a young male leopard, because they are so full of life and mischief. Now, of course, each individual leopard has its own personality, and I haven't spent enough time with Vutomi to get to know his personality too well just yet. Hopefully that's going to change. And, you can see he's a 3-3 spot pattern. For those of you who are wondering about spot patterns and how we identify leopards, let me just get a, here we go, a clickety, oh no, that's a terrible clickety click. My stuff is all set from last night in the dark. So I'm just going to get a shot of his face so I can show you. What I'm talking about when I say spot patterns. What is wrong with my camera? It is misbehaving heavily at the moment. There we go. Mr. Vutomi. That should be... No, it's still very dark. It's very strange.